Okay, so how are we feeling? Do we need to do a grounding exercise, you guys, or are we present and ready to go?
I'm ready.
I'm
It
ready.
feels like most of you guys actually are. So we'll just hop right into it. As usual, some of you guys might be new. Some of you have been here before. I actively, regularly look at the chat. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. Feel free to communicate with each other in the chat. It's actually really, really helpful. And I think that it helps the overall experience. So feel free to use that. I will pause every once in a while to ask questions, to answer questions, just to kind of get a pulse to see if what we're doing is working for you, because it's very important to me that you understand. Also, you don't have to agree. Agreement is not a requirement. I have an obligation to share the information. You do with it what you will. If nothing else, it's going to cause you to start thinking about some things. It may even cause you to have some conversations, which is really the purpose and the point. Okay, the purpose in the point is to move you to a space where you feel comfortable considering some of these ideas and how they may affect you or not. Okay, so that's where we're going to do that. Y'all know I have never used visual aids. I don't know how to draw, not my thing. I don't know how to draw at all. My art is in music and other forms of expression and dance. Art is not it for me. So, but because of the nature of what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to do my best to make this make sense. Okay. And I will do my best to draw. And hopefully it will help you understand with the visual aids, but please do not expect anything good. Okay. And I'm setting myself up for embarrassment by even drawing anything. It's that bad. Like, it's really that bad. It's that bad. But I'm doing my best to make this make sense. Okay. So, yeah. Hello, Miss Black. It's nice to see you. So let's hop right in. So the subject of this talk in our time together, this meeting, is about spiritual hierarchy. I felt that it was really important to discuss this right now because some of you are getting ready to or have recently gone through the beginnings of having your karmic cycles cleared and finding out what your original spark is. And so when you find out what your original spark is and you now don't have karma anymore and you're trying to figure out what your actual purpose is because you've cleared level 1, right? Level 1, everybody comes here with karma. No one really knows how to deal with it or get rid of it, period. Whether they know that they have it or not, we all come here with it. That's level 1. Level 2, you've cleared your karma, but you have to unlearn the ways that you've been reacting to stimulants in your life so that you don't continue to make choices based on a paradigm that you're no longer a part of. When you are loaded with karma, and I say this, many of you have had readings with me and I've said this, what you're experiencing in your life right now is not simply cause and effect of things that you've done right now. It's actually an amalgamation of past life karma, of other people working out their stuff, of decisions that you're making right now, of traumas that you've experienced in this life, all kinds of things. It's an amalgamation of multiple things. And so it's actually really unreasonable to find frustration in your life as you know it when you aren't looking at all the parts. It's also very important to understand that doing your shadow work is going to make your process of clearing your karma and getting into the other boxes, because at the end of the shadow work series, I said these are your boxes of things that you put in your attic during this life. But there's other boxes up there that you don't know where they came from. Those boxes are your past lives and the karma that they accumulated for you. but you can't even get to that until you deal with the stuff that's happened now. Clearing your cycles without having done your doing your shadow work can be even more problematic, because sometimes it pushes people over the edge. Sometimes people are not able, they haven't built up the emotional intelligence and coping mechanisms to allow for them to look at things from a wider perspective, which is why I divine over every single person. Some people aren't ready to clear things quickly. If I feel that it's going to cause you any damage, I won't do it. I'll refer you to Isis Wisdom's program, which you got to pay for each cycle individually and then do aftercare before you can start your next cycle. My program doesn't work like that. But if I believe, or it's shown through divination that this could be harmful to you, I won't do it. However, most of you that are here, I would be comfortable doing the work because I know you've been doing your shadow work. I know that. I know that you've been going through the process of understanding how these things accumulate and how they work, which has always been my intention from the gate. I've been working on my stuff for almost 2.5 years at this point. And I knew what was coming because when I did it, it was just me and there wasn't anyone to have this conversation with. You have to understand that upon clearing your cycles, now you don't have a subconscious. There's nothing running in the background. You're left with yourself. There's no chatter. There's no previous programming. But that's why in step 2, it's the unlearning, because you remember that chatter and you remember how you used to respond to it. And it takes a while to realize that it's not there anymore. Like when somebody loses a lot of weight, they may not understand what size they actually are anymore. They may put on their old clothes expecting for them to fit, and then when they don't, or they might go buy new clothes that are the size that they used to be. It's this acclimation of the new you, of the new awareness of who you are. So that's something that you really have to keep in mind, and that I really want you to pay attention to, because like I said, when you get to this point, when you get to this place and you start going, okay, well, I know what my original spark is, which I'm going to speak about very briefly. When I make reference to original spark, I'm talking about the original fragment of source, the original fractal of source. Those of you who didn't see previous videos, please go back and watch that, because I talk about fractals and the Russian doll and the rest of it. This is the original spark of you separating from source, having a separate experience and identity from source, but you were still very much aware at that point that your experiences belonged to source. When you first came, when you first had your spark as whatever you were, you understood what you actually were and you operated within that space. Let me give you an example of what happens. This is just like a crude example, but it's the best one I could come up with. You move into a house, it's already furnished. When you first move into the house, you realize that it's furnished and you didn't buy these furnishings, and that this is just a house that you're living in because you got to have a base of operation. That's your skin suit. Okay. You come in to this house, you see the blueprint, you know where the pipes are, you know where the studs are in the wall, you understand. You go through this first spark or this first house, and you see there's a cup in the cupboard that you really like. So you take that mug with you and you move into another house. You forget that this isn't actually your house. You get attached to the furnishings in it. And then when you go to the next house, you take all of the furniture with you from that house into the next house. And so now you have 3 mugs, because you took 1 mug from the first one. That's not that big a deal. It's just a mug. But you also took the couch and the bed and the rest of it in this house that has the same rooms, same amount of rooms, same whatever. It may even be a smaller house. It may be a bigger house this time, but now you have doubles of things. And then you take all the furniture from that house, and now the next house you move into, is smaller. But you forgot that the luggage and all of the furnishings from the previous house that you brought along with you, the furnishings in the house and the experiences that you have in that house belong to source. When we start to claim them and building attachments to them, we agree to carry karma. Does that make sense? You are agreeing to carry karma from things that were no more than just an experience. Sneaky how that works. Very sneaky. And the system appreciates this and participates in keeping you trapped. Because the system, the matrix, harnesses your energy. The system, the matrix, tells you how to feel. The system, the matrix, tells you what you're supposed to be doing. And that you should continue to keep yourself weighed down in this plane so that they can continue to harness your energy. Because what you were actually supposed to do was freely explore this realm and whatever your spark was. This plane that we're on right now, one of its reasons for creation, not the only one, but one of its reasons for creation was so that beings, and you'll understand because I'm gonna go back to it, beings that under normal circumstances would not have had the opportunity to experience creation and being self-directed, get to experience self-direction and self-possession and a form of godhood in this plane. Because we have what? Free will. Free will is something that is very specific to this plane. There are entire races of beings that don't operate with free will. They are hive-minded, meaning that they communicate amongst each other within the framework of whatever it is that the collective has decided. They do not have the ability to set into motion distinctly different desires and wants and needs. They are hive-minded. They fall under the polarity of their creation. If they are created to anchor in what we would consider benevolent energy, that's what they all do. If they were created to anchor in the opposite polarity, malevolence, that's what they all do. Unless source decides to allow them the space to come to this plane and have this experience. Okay, the stage has been set. So you guys tell me, I can start from humans up or from source down. Hi, Candace. Y'all tell me in the chat which direction you want to go. And then after that, I'm going to mess all of that up. But I have to start from where I know most of you have learned this. Okay, human up, human up, human up. Okay, human up. Source down, source down. Human up. Okay, we're going to go human up because we're going to end up going source down anyway, because there's things that I have to put together for you so it makes sense. This idea of up or down, the reason why I asked you guys this is because this is based on a spiritual cosmology that was created by the Catholic Church. This is religion. Religion has taught us above and below in the way that we think of it, right? Satan is in hell, which is below our feet, and the earth is going to open up and swallow you, you know, when it's time to go, and heaven is above you and the angels are there. And it doesn't actually work like that, actually, at all. It really doesn't. I mean, it really doesn't. And this is going to blow your mind because you're going to go, oh my God, it's in my face all the time. But they've taught us something totally different on purpose. So the way that it actually works, I'm going to start with the human. Okay, look at my shitty drawing. Candace, I was telling everybody I can't draw because I'm not an artist like you. You're an artist. I am not. So this is you. You're the human. You have aspects, higher and lower selves. You are above the animals and the insects on this plane. That's it. Frequency wise, I want you to keep this in mind. I'm talking about frequency. Humans are the most dense. Okay, so we are high density, low frequency. High density, low frequency. High density, low frequency. Okay. All right. So we would consider the space that we're in 3D because there's 2 dimensions below us that we can observe. Okay. That's it. That's simple. Everybody else is at a higher frequency and lower density than we are. So when someone passes on and they shed this, regardless of whether or not they were a good person or a bad person, they're at a higher frequency because they're not weighed down by the density of the body. Make sense? Okay, because I'm really trying. I don't want to miss anyone. I don't want to lose anybody. And I really want all of this to make sense. So your ancestors, by virtue of the fact that they are disincarnate. So when I say disincarnate, I only mean all beings who do not have a physical body. Okay, they are automatically at a higher frequency than you. Some of us have developed gifts or were born with gifts that allow for us to see into higher frequencies. Some of us can see the disincarnate, whatever their frequency. Some of us can only see certain disincarnates at certain frequencies. Some of us can hear them. Some of them can sense them. Some of us can feel them. Some of us can smell them. Some of us can't do any of those things. Okay. Your ancestors are a cheat code to the matrix. The ancestors are your first line of defense. Okay. Your ancestors have a certain rule over you, meaning your ancestors can decide to take your life. Your ancestors can be like, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. This is ultimately a waste of time, and they can take your life. They can. Lots of people don't realize that, and they don't like to look at it like that, but actually they can. Ancestors can disallow for a higher level being to get access to you. Your ancestors can protect you from really most things. Why? They have 1 foot in the world and 1 foot out, because their blood that they shared with you and your genetics flows through your veins. I call them a cheat code to the matrix because they literally are. There are certain things in the matrix that have been set into motion over you that with proper feeding of your ancestors, they can disrupt. If you, for example, have ever worked with Ifa, or you have gone to a Polero, or you've dealt with anyone in any of the ATRs, the African traditional religions, or the African descent traditional religions, they make offerings to these different deities. They make offerings to, you know, to the disincarnate of any range, because there's a lot of disincarnate beings. Because of their frequency, they have the ability to distort and disrupt what the matrix may have set into motion. So when you feed your ancestors, your benevolent ancestors that love you, you are giving them the ability to have the energy to intervene on your behalf. And even more important is clearing your ancestral line of debt. The matrix created this idea of debt because they understood that it manifested metaphysically as well. The contracts that you make in this realm transmit to the afterlife. Why? The same way karma works. Karma works by getting you to agree in this life that you experience some things and those things belong to you. When you agree to a mortgage, when you agree to any form of debt, it translates. So those people who have come from groups that have been enslaved have a sense of debt. Their wealth and their energy is being siphoned off to pay this debt. So when I tell y'all, take care of your ancestors first, oh, I mean it. Take care of your ancestors first. Because your ancestors is what they are the conduit by which you have access to adjust things in the matrix. If you haven't taken care of them, you're going to have a rough time, even if you try to go above them. So the disincarnate, your ancestors. Okay. Then you have the jinn. The jinn were actually created before humans, us as we know ourselves to be humans. Many of them were destroyed. You can find out a lot about them if you wanted to look into writings from Islam. The Muslim tradition talks a lot about the jinn. They are very, very, very powerful beings. There's not nearly as many of them as there used to be, but they are still here. And they are at a higher frequency than humans. Okay. You also have the Fae. The Fae, that's a very wide term. Like we say human, but we know there's all kinds of humans. There's even more kinds of Fae. The Fae include the mermaids, the sirens, the winds, well, the dragons, the what? Okay, just Fae. They're like, don't get too far into that, just because it's very broad. You can do your own research about types of Fae, the elves, you know, the inhabitants of inner earth. People have said either way, you can't see them because our frequency is too low and we're too dense. But there was a time when the Fae were easily seen by our predecessors, by our ancestors, because their frequency was higher. We have actually gotten worse. We've become more dense and our frequency has, you know, it's gotten worse. We've become even lower in frequency because we used to commune very comfortably with certain spirits. Okay, Kenya, I let you in, but I'm not going to let anybody else in because I've kind of covered a good bit and I don't want anyone to be confused, but it is being recorded. So, you know, everybody feel free to run it back. Okay, so the Fae, the jinn, there's a bunch of other beings within there, but I'm just giving you like some general things that you can look up, you know, later if you want to. After the jinn, you have the angels. Okay, you have regular angels and then you have arcs. Okay, angels, archangels. Angels and angels are closer to humans than the archangels are. Okay. Within this, just the ones that I just brought up, the Fae aren't considered ETs because the Fae are earthbound. The Fae are here in this realm with us. We just don't see them. The ancestors have their own realm. The Fae are earthbound. I'm writing this down and I'm going to put it in the camera. The ancestors have their own realm. The angels and the archangels and the Pleiadians and the Lyrans and the Anunnaki and the beings from the Orion area, the beings from, you know, all of these beings, they're all considered ETs or extraterrestrials, right? So they are not limited by our realm. They are outside of said realm. They're all ETs, including the angels. Angels are extraterrestrials. Okay, everybody here? We're here. All right. So when you get above the archangels, you get into the realm of the gods. Okay. The God realm, each realm has its own distinctions of beings. There are beings that are above them until you get to the beginning of the next realm. Okay, that's how it always works. Hierarchies and our resistance to it is not actually natural. It's required. We must have hierarchy to maintain order. It's just what it is. It's the abuse of it, and it's people not being comfortable with their place that causes problems. Hierarchies aren't a problem. They're necessary. They're absolutely necessary. Hi, Colleen. I was saying I wasn't gonna let anybody else in, but then I saw you and I was like, I'm gonna let her in. But you're gonna have to go back because you know I build on top one on top of another. And yeah, so the first little chunk may not make any sense, but you came in at a good time. So after you get through the higher angels, the archangels, but there are some angels that are even higher than them within that, you get into the God realm. Now I'm going to go from source down for it to make sense. Source created the primordial divine feminine first. The divine feminine light. Okay. So this is where we're at so far. Ooh. Here's source. Source created the divine feminine light. Okay. First creation. The second was Olodumare. Okay. Olodumare is masculine. There were 3 feminine created by source and 3 masculine created by source. But the first creation was the feminine. Period, period, period. It is what it is. The oldest, the first, is the primordial mother. The light that's in every single person's cells, every being on all planes of any type has the light that came from the primordial mother. The primordial mother now the other ones I won't be talking about because I can't. It's really that simple. Fourth masculine. Let me just write this down. 5th feminine, 6th masculine. Okay, so this is what I'm giving. I know it's backwards, but every other one is an opposite. So feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine, 6. Okay, we're only going to talk about the primordial mother and Olodumare. How many of you know who Olodumare is? Probably, if you've had any exposure to Ifa, you might, but I'll just give you this. Olodumare created the Orisha. Okay. The primordial divine mother is now associated with Venus, but that hasn't always been. It's just that's what she's associated with for reference. the light. So she created her 6 goddesses. No men, no masculine. They were 6 goddesses, creator goddesses. Olodumare has his creator gods and goddesses. These creator beings got together, and there were others from the other 4 original neutral gods. Source created neutral gods, meaning that they were directly center. They were not anchored in polarity other than their energy. Feminine houses masculine. That's why it's the first that was made. This was the beginnings of anchoring polarity, but they were considered neutral. I'm not at liberty to speak on that. I'd love to, but I can't, because it's not time. My unconscious self, my goddess identity knows, but it's not something that has been allowed for me to receive yet. I can't say why, it just hasn't been. So but these 2 I have been allowed to see in my conscious mind, so I can communicate it to you. So these other gods and goddesses also created creator gods. It's its own distinction. Creator gods literally created this entire system. All the planes, the rules. The Orisha are in charge of what? The weather, all of the systems. They're in charge of them. Okay. Shango is in charge of lightning. Oya is in charge of the wind. Yemoja is in charge of the oceans, along with Olokun, who's in charge of the lower ocean. Ajay is in charge of wealth. All of these things has a god, a creator god, that's in charge of them. There's also some Orisha that are not creator gods. They're of a lower position. In that, creator gods get to actually create whole planes and planets and beings and all kinds of things. So the primordial mother created her 6 creator goddesses who worked in concert with the creations of the other 4 original neutral gods. Okay. Now, I bring up Olodumare because this is very important. Olodumare, in his creation of gods, these gods agreed to have and to usher in and to educate humans of this plane information regarding universal law. Ifa is 0s and 1s. Where else do you see 0s and 1s? Computer code. Code is originally 0s and 1s, which is what Ifa is, which is the oldest of the old. Orunmila brought Ifa, or universal law, or code, to Earth. Communication with the Orisha, becoming, going through the process of initiating to an Orisha, and request, even if you don't initiate, if you go to a Babalawo or a Iya and Ifa, then they can communicate to the Orisha and ask for certain things, because they built this code along with the 6 creator goddesses from the Divine Mother. You still with me? Okay. Like I said, the other 4 gods also created creator gods, and it was a conglomerate of these creator gods and goddesses, primarily goddesses and gods, really, because it's always been majority feminine energy that allowed for these things to happen. These goddesses and these gods are creator level. I'll talk about the Divine Mother. She created her 6. She then created her 12. So you have 6, then 12 of creator level goddesses. Then you have 18. Then you have the 24. The 18 are the beginning of the managers and implementers and maintainers of the work that the creator goddesses have set into motion. So the 6 actually get to set into motion their own creations under the primordial mother. And then the 12 assist and can carry some of that energy. The 18 can carry a bit of the energy of the 12, and they're above the 24. The 24 is the point where she decided no more gods of this level. The beings that came after that would be considered ETs. This matters because when you, if any of you, end up having these gifts, when you go to look into a being or a person, or you want to see what they're doing or what's happening with them, you can't see above you. The way that it works is that you are at your level and you can influence what's at your level and below you. It's very simple. What's at your level and below you, because we're thinking in terms of above and below for now, till I blow all of that up, because it's coming. It's just easier to explain it this way. So in the God realm, there's neutrality. After the 24 level, you start to get into distinct polarities. What do I mean? Whole beings, whole races of beings that are anchored in place to create polarity of good and bad, or malevolent and beneficent, okay? They are placed and created specifically for that purpose after the range of the 24. So if the primordial mother is the first creation and Olodumare is the second, his first line of creation is about equal to the 12, between the 6 and the 12 of the primordial mother. Makes sense? Because they're not equal. They're not equal at any point. They can't be. Each of the original goddesses that were created their own amount, and they have their own way of interacting with their creations. Many do not look at the Orisha as gods, but they are. And Olodumare is the god of the Orishas. Still with me? Okay. So after the God realm, you get into the angelics. Now, there are angelics that serve right at the foot of source. However, they do not have free will. The only beings that naturally have free will are gods. That's it. Your ticket to experiencing free will is having a soul. Most ETs are soulless. They do not have free will. They are not self-directed. They are hive-minded. The gods, the creator gods, then the gods lower than them that are not creator, are above the angelics. They're above all of the angelics, the jinn, all the beings in between, all the ETs, the Anunnaki, all of that. Okay, we're here. All right. Now, this is when we get into polarity. Remember I said polarity is coming. Anchoring polarity is coming. Polarity starts after the God realm. Let's just take a shot in the dark so I can get a pulse. What is the shadow side of the angels? Look at my hands. This is the underside of this hand. Okay, same hand, but it has two sides. Okay, so what's the shadow side of an angel?
Demons.
Yes. So when we hear fallen angel, they didn't actually fall from anywhere. I just showed you my left hand and my right hand. Some of you that have been exposed to witchcraft, you know that they talk about the left hand path and the right hand path. My left hand is on the same side. It's the same It's just opposite sides of the same body. The body is in the center, and I have opposite sides. What makes us symmetrical is our opposite sides. And when we come together, we become unified. What happens is these polarities move from left to right, not up and down. Angels don't fall. They move from left to right. I keep saying I'm going to stop admitting people, and then I keep admitting people. LaShonda, we got through a lot, sis, so you're going to have to, you're not even connected. Okay, you are. You're going to have to watch the first part for most of what I'm saying to make sense, okay? If you have a question that's something I already covered, I may not go into it because I'm trying to like stay on track, but I'm happy that you're here because we're getting into the chunky stuff.
Okay.
Can they go from fallen angels to just angels? Well, they're not fallen because they didn't fall anywhere. They shifted their anchoring in polarity. Many beings seek to understand both sides. So demons would just be the shadow side of an angel. Why would this happen? The Goetia are a higher, more powerful ruling class, if you will, of demons. Why would this be? Well, because in order to allow for free will in a plane that allows for options, you must anchor polarity. So Source created polarity. That's it. Where's your free will if there's no choices? Where's your free will if there's no options? The highest form of spiritual evolution is to understand everything, is to experience everything and to come out whole. The primordial mother has mastered the left and the right. She has spent time on the left and the right. And all of her children at some point, if they want to evolve, have spent time in the left and the right. I apparently took a lifetime and a half going through my phases to come out where I am. So I have gone from a duality to a trine. A trine is a symbol of balance, ultimately, when you bring two to singular. So it's left and right, you guys. It's not up and down. The pendulum does what? It swings. I'm going to pause here for questions. Kenya says, so this starts with shadow work for humans. It doesn't start, but it's what happens, period. This is what we're always trying to do. We're always trying to integrate all of our stuff. We're always trying to get back to the center. We're trying to accept that we are just having experience, which is the ultimate expression of source, which is unity. To be unified, to be singular, to have understanding that my experience belongs to source, and I'm just a conduit, a fractal of source. I don't carry baggage with me. I don't carry these things because they don't belong to me. And when you clear your karma and you go back to your original spark, then you then can go through the rest of your experience in this plane utilizing free will. That's why the more that you know about yourself, things get easier.
Marina?
Yes.
Can I share something I learned with the group at some point?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hold it.
Yes.
Just a minute, but yes. I do. I want you to share that. We are all caught in polarity. We react to things. We either react. I've told you guys about what I learned when I went to my Vipassana, and it was the 10-day silent retreat. And it was brought to our attention that we actually don't make decisions. All we do is react. We react with either desire or repulsion. We see things that we don't like and we go, oh, I don't like it. And we see things that we do like and we start drooling after it. And that's it. We don't ever get to the higher position of observation and then making clear choices. That's not what most of us do. We're stuck in a cycle of reaction. To pull out of polarity is to fully express free will. It's a mini expression of godhood. Because this is the nature of all goddesses, is to encompass all, to be unified, to create, to be artistic, to explore, to learn, all of it. So on this plane, everyone to some extent or another has a scope of influence. You guys have heard me talk about your scope of influence, right? Your creatorship. You are exercising that whenever you step out of the matrix, whenever you step out of what you were taught, whenever you step out of your traumas, you are exerting an example of divine creatorship. And that's what makes being down here so amazing. Because that's not what all of us are actually able to do. I didn't know what I was until I cleared my karma and went through my stuff. I didn't know what I was. But when I figured it out, I was like, oh, oh, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. It all makes sense. That's why this plane is so amazing. That's why so many beings want to be here. That's why, because this is a unique space. This is a unique place to be in. And that's why everyone who comes here is fortunate, because they are being given the opportunity to experience things. Were we supposed to get stuck down here? No. No. The gatekeepers for this realm wanted to be what they were not. The maintenance people, so listen, you have an engineer, you have an architect whenever you're building a building, right? And then they hire construction crews, and there's a foreman of the construction crew. You have plumbers, you have electricians. Sometimes the electricians work for themselves. Sometimes the plumbers are independent. You got bricklayers, you got all kinds. The gods, the creator gods, the angels of all levels participated in this. Some ET beings even got to put a little sprinkle in there, some of them. The bricklayers, the maintenance people, the foremen wanted to, write their name in the cement. They wanted to change the entrance. They felt like the window should go somewhere else. They didn't have the right to do that upon construction. So what did they do? When construction was finished and nobody was looking, they moved a door. They changed the position of the window. They put a keypad with a code on certain shit that wasn't there before. They started feeling like, well, if we were there when it was built, we know where all the stuff goes. We're just as good as the creators of it. I could be an architect. I could be an engineer. I could do that. I can start to noodle with things. Read the book of Enoch. What were the angels doing? Messing with the humans, having babies, noodling with DNA. How did the ETs get to this realm? The angels were the gatekeepers. Some of the lower gods who weren't creators, who were supposed to be managing at their level and below, didn't. Because they knew that as it pertained to who was the level below them, they appeared as gods, and they wanted to have the appearance of control. There was a desire to be more than what it is that they were given to do. The ETs did it. Prepare yourself, but I have to say it. All of the Egyptian gods were Anunnaki. All of the Egyptian gods were Anunnakis. They were all ETs. They were all ETs, all of them. Every single last one. The concepts were exactly that. It was a way of explaining things, like I'm explaining it to you now. They saw an opportunity to physically present themselves, to be seen as a god. All the ET beings are closer to humans than we are. And one of the amazing things about the humans is that the humans are an amalgamation of pretty much all of the everything. Humans have water, electricity, minerals, earth, all within us. We have a soul, which comes from source. We have spark. We have light from the primordial mother. We have angels that are assigned to us. We have ETs that we may work with, or that we may have been in the past. We are an amalgamation. The matrix has been corrupted. It was a system designed by the creator gods to allow for order in this grand experiment of what happens when you give non-gods the experience of what gods can do.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So what is the end game of the corruption of the matrix and the siphoning off of energy from all humans? Is it so that the people who have presented themselves as gods, even though they don't have the right to do so, can just continue enjoying that experience, or are people like trying to overthrow the hierarchy?
So we got here because of distortion of the hierarchy and disrespect for the hierarchy. And many of us who consider ourselves light workers, or those of us like everybody in this room who's drawn to this, you are drawn to correction. You are drawn to order. That's why you're here. This is eroding. We're watching it. We're watching it happen in real time. This erosion has been the dismantling of this matrix, of this corrupted matrix, has been happening for a while. Really crude example. You have a computer you've had for a really long time. You're trying to save your files that can be saved in your incredibly corrupted system that's full of, viruses, before you throw it in the garbage and you start another one. Because there is another one. And there's already some beings there in the other one. In the lower density, higher frequency. It is occupying the same space, but we can't see them because they're higher frequency. Okay. Our ancestral realm, we can't see them, but they're here. The Fae beings are here. They're all here. We just can't perceive them. You only interact with what you can perceive. Okay? There is already another plane. So when we talk about people getting stuck in the 3D or the 4D and not going to the 5 and 6D or whatever, it's about perception. It's about being at a frequency that allows you to interact with how this new paradigm works. Not all of us that are here because we had karma. Some of us are here as volunteers. But to get in, we had to take on karma. It's a requirement just to get in here. It's that corrupted. So it's already happening. It's been happening. I'm here because I'm one of the beings that built this. And for whatever reason, I volunteered to come and assist. And that's what I'm doing. And there's others of us that are here as volunteers for different reasons. And those of you that are thinking about these things are thinking about these things because the messages are coded for you to understand, for you to see. And even in this rescue mission, there's still a lot of corruption. There's still a lot of greed. There's still a lot of lies. There's still a lot. And so it's very, very important that you learn to follow what resonates with you. I already feel this question coming. Well, what if what resonates with me keeps me stuck? It's because you weren't meant to go past where you're at right now. Maybe it was meant to take you this far in this life so that your next life, you come in with an understanding and then you are able to build on it beyond this point. It's not my job to intervene. I respect everyone's path. That's why you're not supposed to fight people. That's why it's not your job to try to save folks, your children, your parents, your lover, whatever, because they have their own path. And that must be respected. Also, why is it that this was funny. I actually had a client ask me this and they weren't being facetious at all. So that's why I didn't take offense. They're like, you're a goddess, right? Yes, I am. And you're like super powerful and you can clear people's karmic cycles and you can see in the other dimensions and you can, all of this cool shit, but you still have to diet. How come you can't just wake up skinny? I thought that was a reasonable question. Because guess what? I wanted to know the same damn thing. I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this? Why? Why? Why do I still have to drive places? How come I can't just fly? Why do I have to still like stand in line for things? How come like what the fuck? I really honestly felt like that. Genuinely. And I asked the primordial mother, I was like, I'm not being facetious, I'm serious. Why? I can help heal people physically. I can see in other people's bodies. I can. All of these things are very real, but I'm still overweight and I don't want to be. What gives? And the answer was, that's a part of your human experience. And if you disrupted it, you would be creating karma by bypassing the lessons that you're supposed to learn. So certain things are just going to stick. Certain parts of my experience, I can't exert control over because it would actually distort my experience in this human vessel. And there's still lessons that I need to learn that this density will teach me. I cannot have my cake and eat it too. I still have to, but it also teaches me to do what I can. To do what I actually can do. to do more of that, to learn what I can actually affect and what I can't. I have a natural, thank you. I have a natural disconnection from this body, from this plane. I've never really felt fully here, but it was actually dismantling part of my own power. Part of me experiencing the fullness of my goddesshood is to plant my roots into this experience, into this physical plane, working with the dirt, working in this way, anchoring myself here so I can create as above, so below, on the left and the right. This is how I unify, to fully be here. All parts. I'm still going to have heartache. I'm still going to cry. I'm still going to feel frustration. I'm still going to lose my temper. I'm still going to do all of those things. The only difference is I don't own those experiences. They don't belong to me. I don't convict myself. I'm not defined by these experiences at all. It's just a part of my experience. And I'm learning things, but I'm also able to do other things. Your scope of influence definitely depends on what your original spark is, but there are ways to widen it. Did I say everything? Okay. If you find out that you are in your original spark, being that anchored malevolence, don't feel bad. Because if you're here and you have a soul, you've been given the opportunity to make different choices. It's up to you if you do or you don't. Okay. If you are here to anchor malevolence in polarity, and that's what Source created you to be, why should I view you? You're what you are. You're exactly what you are. If I'm comfortable working with angels, why would I not be comfortable working with demons? I spent my time, not in this life, but 1.5 lives. I spent time in the underworld or on the left. They know me now. What you see before you is the unification. I am a Trinity, as you see me right now. Because I'm an embodied goddess of the divine feminine primordial mother, one of her 6. That's who I am. When I finish what I'm supposed to do here, I get to move up to the 4. The 4 were not the original creation. The 4 were created after all of us were given our role and our position. When you raise up to the 4, then it changes again. But I had to understand and get comfortable with my shadow self, which is Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio sun sign. I have a Taurus moon and a Libra rising. The truth is, we all know that Libra is ruled by Venus. We all know that Taurus is ruled by Venus. Libra is the youthful romantic aspect, and Taurus is the stable motherly aspect of the divine feminine. Erishka Gal is the unseen. She is the one that resides in the underworld. She is the one that is the shadow. She is the ruler of the underworld. What other planet is rules the underworld? Pluto. Who does Pluto rule? Scorpio. It's her secret position. People don't understand that. Scorpio, Libra, and Taurus are all ruled by Venus. Truthfully. Inanna, Ereshkigal, and Ishtar are the three phases of the divine feminine. In the Wicca tradition, it's the maiden, the mother, and the crone. The maiden, the mother, and the crone. Let's talk about how the church, as we know it, butchered the divine feminine. Briefly, we have the Father, the Son, and a spirit, a Holy Spirit, who's the dove. The dove is the symbol of the Sibyls, or the witches, or the divine feminine. How you get a son when there's no mother? How? How? Where do they do that at on earth? Where? They don't. Everything is presented topsy-turvy. It's presented above, below, and all masculine that took a rib. How? How? That's what I want to know. How? Where is that repeated anywhere? Where is that repeated in nature? Where? Where? Even with the few animals where they're intersex or they don't have a gender or they care, whatever, it still requires clarity to some extent, unless they are a type of being that doesn't require that, and that's very rare. All humans start out as feminine, period, until a certain amount of hormone gets loosed and then things change. It is what it is. So if you find out that you are a being that anchors in an opposite being left-handed polarity, don't despair. You've been given the opportunity to have different experiences. That's all. Now did I say everything? Some beings were created in the right-hand path of polarity, the benevolent path. But because they were most likely hive-minded, they've been given the opportunity to have different experiences. And they may have accumulated karma in their desire to have a different experience, the opposite polarity of themselves. You shouldn't feel bad. You are what you are. There's no judgment. What's important is that you accept exactly who and what you are. Disorder is the crime. I've said it so many times in so many videos that anyone that presents themselves as a singular thing, you probably shouldn't trust if they're guiding you. Singular meaning all good or all bad, when really everybody is a certain percentage. Some people are 60% light, 40% dark. Some people are 70% dark and 30% light. Because that's what we're doing here on this plane. That's why I'm always telling you, integrate, 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 integrate. Integrate, accept yourself. Yes, of course. When your moon and your sun are opposite, it creates a certain push and pull. It's hard. I have two fixed signs. My sun is in a water fixed sign, and my moon is in an earth fixed sign. And my rising is an air sign. My fixed water sign is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So it's fire and water put together. It's hard. I always struggled with it, but remember, your knowledge and awareness of your blueprint doesn't mean that that's what you have to remain. It just lets you know where the studs are on the wall, where the plumbing goes, because you want to move your bathroom, because you want to change your kitchen. You get to do that because you have free will. You are not bound by your blueprint. You just need it so that you don't mess something up when you're moving stuff around. Okay, was that sufficient? Yes. Now we can have questions because they've given me everything that I was supposed to give. Questions. You can raise your hand, that would be helpful. No? No questions? Wow, I must have did a really good job. Kenya, go ahead.
Sorry, I feel like I got a question every single session, but how do you nurture? Do you have any tips on like nurturing the divine feminine when it comes to raising sons?
First things first, you have to accept what they are. In the matrix, the nature of the masculine is imbalanced and out of order. It just is, because they're born into a system that outside of how you may do your best to rear them, gives them entitlement and perspectives that are toxic and out of balance with order. So you have to accept that first. Regardless of what you may or may not do, there's no guarantee. That's first. Second, you and your acceptance of your divine feminine is the best way to model how he's supposed to behave. You can't interact with him the way that a man does. The best thing you can do is fully step into your feminine. When your son gets older and he starts smelling himself and talking to you crazy, you're going to tell him that hurts my feelings and I don't like that and it doesn't make me feel comfortable, period. I'm not about to fight with you. You don't have to accept abuse from anybody, whether you gave birth to them or not. And trust and believe, just because they're your son doesn't mean that they will not abuse you within the system of patriarchy, because they can. Be honest about your femininity. Be honest about the ways in which that you've been disappointed, the ways in which this system has affected you, and get yourself together. That's the best thing that you can do. And then you allow him to make his choices. You don't coddle him. PSA, screaming from the rooftops. Stop saying to yourself, when it comes to men, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to be treated that way, because guess what? He's not a woman. He has a different set of standards. He has a different set of obligations. He can't do what you do. So stop coddling them. Stop. I told my son the other day, matter of fact, I think I'm going to have another conversation about this. I don't have you do things for me because I can't do them. I have you do things for me because that's part of your purpose, is to assist and serve, to lighten my load. Do not get it twisted. I can do all things through the goddess that strengthens me. I don't need anything. If I ask you to do something, it's an opportunity to serve. I say that to him. I say that to all the men that are around me, and I will continue to do so. And if they don't like it, then they're out of order and they're not my problem. Do men get to treat me like that? Hell no. Why would a being who comes from me get to talk to me as if my job is to serve them? How? You're all my children. The masculine and the feminine are my children. Why would I ever allow someone who cannot create me to tell me that my purpose is to serve them? I'll wait. It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense. You exist because of me. So every opportunity that you have to assist, protect, and provide for me is exactly what you should be doing. And if you don't want to, you're out of order, and I have nothing for you. Do not treat your son like he's your daughter. You raise your daughter to expect to be cared for and protected and provided for, regardless of who the man is. regardless of what they choose to do. They need to have reverence, because she, in the fact that she was born a woman, is a mini fractal of the divine feminine, who was the first being created after source. That's what all of us are. And if they are not, then they are within their order when they revere and honor and respect the divine feminine. If they don't do that, I don't have nothing for them. And no, we don't need their sperm to recreate ourselves. We used to just clone ourselves. We decided to create a counterpart because, as the creator did, the creator, the source, decided to create polarity. So all creator beings seek to create. We did what came natural. You only need one man and you need a bunch of women. The imbalance is proven in nature. It just is what it is. They don't have to like it. They don't have to like it. So you being your best feminine self is how you nurture your son. Milan has her hand up, and then we're going to allow Corinna to share her story. Milan.
Hi, Marina.
Hi. So nice to
Hey.
hear your voice.
So I have a question. Is hierarchy on this plane regarding race and melanin?
Oh, juicy question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the closer you are to the original, just like I was discussing, right? Closeness to source and how it affected the gods in their position, the closeness to creator gods and how that affected their polarity. The closer you get to, the higher angelic you are, the closer you are to source. The further away you get from the original, the more rooted in polarity you become, and the more distorted you become. So on this plane, what would be the closest thing to source? A melanated woman. The furthest opposite would be a non-melanated man. There absolutely is a hierarchy. As you watch the descent of the deeply melanated woman, that's how you knew how off and distorted the system was. As you see us rise, you start to notice the change in the overall perspective of things. The more of us that have a deeper understanding of our need for camaraderie amongst ourselves, the more our sisterhood grows, the more divorces you see, the more single women you see. It's at the beginning of the transition. In the beginning, it's going to feel, especially for those of us that are in at this point of the transition, it's rough. It's rough. It's hard. We are attacked. It's the first line of everything, right? The first line that goes out to war, they get slaughtered. It's rough when you're at the beginning, at the precipice of things. But we've been seeing it. So absolutely there is a hierarchy, because we are fractals of order. You see it everywhere. The repeat, the trickle down. That was a really, really good question. I hope I answered it, because it's actually very simple.
You did. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, Candace.
I just want to piggyback and say that that's very true, and they know it, that it's true, because when I was having my son, when I was pregnant with him, and he was coming early, and I remember asking, is he going to be okay? Is his lungs developed and all of that? And the doctor who was delivering him, white man, like full on white man, he said that it wouldn't be a concern. Like he said, if it were a Black female, there's hands down no problem. She could come as like super early and still have a fighting chance. Nobody's going to worry about her. And he said, the only time you have to worry is if you have, he was like, first it's the Black female, then the Black male, then the white female. And then he said, and then the wimpy white male is what they call them in the hospital, like in the hospital and stuff. They call them the wimpy white male. So this is true. And they know it. Like it
And they
is
know
true.
it.
They
And they've
know it
been
is
knowing
because
it.
he told me that. Mhm.
They've known it. It really, like, it's very obvious. When you create systems, I really need y'all to stay with me. Okay. There are systems created, patriarchy and racism and ageism and all of these things created to distort access. Patriarchy sought to take away the agency of the divine feminine. Racism seeks to take away the agency of the melanated being. That's to give themselves an unnatural position. I've said it before. There are way more men than there should be because of the way that they've created the system. They've created a system that allows for men to not have to go through rites of passage, to not have to go through any kind of expectation for anything. And they get to run around and travel and have babies without any checks or balances. They out here doing whatever. Absolutely whatever. When, if you look at it purely from a functional perspective, you only need so many. So who are the ones raping women and children and blowing shit up and just causing havoc? The ones that shouldn't be here. I said what I said. They're the ones that should not be here. They're the ones that should not be here. They came from genetic lines that, when things were more in order, would not have been allowed to procreate, period. Sorry. Actually, speaking to age, the older you are, the more powerful you become. A woman in her 50s who's just starting witchcraft, which is tapping into the source energy that's all around and manipulating it, is going to be more powerful than a 20-year-old who's been doing it since she was 15. Why do I say that? Everything you've been taught is a distortion. Why do they glorify the maiden? Because she doesn't know any better. That's why older men are obsessed with young women, because they don't know any better, because they can't deal with women at their own age. That's why, because they know that we know when they're in their bullshit. That's why 40-year-olds date 22-year-olds, and other men say that, oh, that's the best thing ever, because she don't know no better. She doesn't know that you can't fuck. She doesn't know that you don't actually have any money. She's impressed that you have a car, because boys her age don't. A 40-year-old woman is going to be like, why don't you own anything yet? Why are you paying $600 a month for this car? Because your credit shit. How are you a king with no kingdom? That's what a woman his age is going to say. He don't want to hear that. And they know that girls are not taught what to expect and what to look for. And they also know that young women are not protected because older women are too busy competing with them. That's what's happening. Older women are competing with them for men who never got past 22. I just saw on Instagram a post from this man in like a FUBU, like a FUBU baseball, like football, and he was 61 and had the nerve to put it on there like, this is what 61 looks like. You're stuck when you were 30. You're dressing the way you did when you were 30. And I'm looking at these comments and people, oh, that's fatty. What? If you were 61 and you are dressing like you did when you were in your 30s, I don't want you to breathe on me. Don't talk to me. Act like you don't see me. No, thank you. What are we talking about? What are we even talking about? What's wrong with you? You're 50 and you've never found a woman to protect and serve, and I'm supposed to take you seriously? What? Huh? It makes no sense, but that's what we're in. Shady, go ahead. I'm just taking on the questions, Corinna, because I know you have a testimony. I'm looking forward to it. Go ahead, Shady.
I just want to know where you feel like non-binary or gender non-conforming fits into the subject of male versus, I should say male.
Your
Male.
polarities. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a scale. There's a scale, and there is polarity within that, right? And then you have all that's in between, because the in-between exists. I think I said this in the one of the shadow work things when I was talking about like sex and sexuality, that there is a scope. In my personal experience, I have found gender non-binary people to defend the divine feminine comfortably. I do. I have never in all of my years experienced someone who doesn't identify firmly with either direction. I've never had a problem having these conversations with people who identify as neither, because there's an understanding that the opposite polarities exist. That's the thing. Respect for the polarities is what matters. What I do take issue with, and I'm going to say it because we're having this conversation, you cannot experience your life as a masculine energy, receiving interaction with the world through masculine energy, and then proceed to tell me that you understand my experience. That I will not accept. And I've had this conversation. I had a whole appointment with a trans woman, and I told her, and I refer to her as her because I respect her humanity to want to be identified in the way that is comfortable. I respect that. What I will not do is adjust my own pronouns for you. I'm not going to do it because I don't have to. That's not my obligation. I can respect you and your experience right now in the body that you're in. I can respect that. What I will not do is equate. Our experiences are not equal. And to me, in my understanding, especially at this point, to decide that my experience has to be adjusted to yours is a very patriarchal, masculine type of perspective. I said what I said. What? You're going to tell me that we're equal? And then our experiences are the same because you said so? That sounds very patriarchal to me. That sounds like what a masculine energy would determine. That you can be me because you said so. You can overthrow me because you said so. And you can bully me into allowing you into my spaces because you said so. I'm fine with you creating your own distinction. I will not adjust mine. I am the standard. Period. You adjust within that. You can be anywhere on the scope that you want to, but I will not adjust. I find it incredibly offensive that there is an overall perception that Black women are masculine. How the fuck? We created everything. There is nothing more feminine than a Black woman, what we consider to be Black women. How? How am I masculine? I gave birth to everything. There is nothing masculine about being the mother of everything. That don't make any sense. Everything is topsy-turvy. Everything. I will not call myself cis anything. I won't. Call yourself whatever you want to, and I will call you that. But you will not police me. I won't allow it. Also, gender binary and the ranges within it has been displayed all throughout history, even in the Orisha. there are Orisha that are represented as masculine and feminine or ambiguous. It exists. What you won't do is tell me that the polarities aren't there for a reason. And what you will not do is put yourself on my throne. You cannot do what I do. And it's more than just parts, which is a very masculine, patriarchal, limited perspective. What makes me a woman is not just the fact that I have a womb and I can and I have breasts. It's an energy. All beings have masculine and feminine energy. Those of us that are feminine, especially those of us that represent the divine feminine, have an energy of creation. It's more than just my parts. And that's the issue that I take with this entire discussion. Because on the one hand, they say, well, the parts don't make you. But on the other hand, they say, well, the parts don't make you. So which one is it? Do the parts not make you, or the parts don't make you? No one's making any sense, and they know it, and no one wants to have that conversation. Because if the parts don't make you what you are, then the parts don't make you what you are. My parts that's not all that makes me feminine. They're just the physical manifestation of my femininity. So you taking away parts or adding parts doesn't make you either. And there are people who come here in an opposite polarity that have more feminine energy than others in that particular polarity, but they were put in that body to have a certain experience. And to not accept that experience is resistance to order, and it's resistance to what it is that you're here to experience. Maybe you're supposed to experience having a deeply feminine energy in a masculine body, or vice versa. Maybe that's what you're here to do, but no one wants to talk about that. Everybody just wants to make everybody feel good. That's not what I'm here for. Get into your experience, whatever that is. Because why do you have to be anything? If you're just you and the parts don't make you, then why are we doing all this stuff with parts? No one wants to say that. No one wants to have that conversation. If it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. But if it matters, then it does. You're changing things, you're adding things, you're taking stuff away. You want other people to participate. How you see yourself is a yourself matter, first of all. So when you're comfortable with yourself and you've integrated your shadow and your light, then you know who you are. And you're not going to seek to impose yourself upon me or anybody else for that matter. Whoever don't fuck with me doesn't fuck with me. It doesn't change who I am. If none of you believe me, it wouldn't change who I am. I still have to say it. When we truly accept ourselves, this need for outside agreement would go away. It's not necessary. Why are you trying to convince me? That is a personal thing. That is none of my business. It really isn't. But if you choose to have an experience in this way, I will call you whatever you want me to call you. I will call you whatever you want me to call you, because I owe each and every individual the right to whatever they want to do. I will never fight anybody who I see is going down a path that's not going to allow them to evolve in this life, because maybe they're not supposed to. I'm not going to fight with you. That's none of my business. I will respect whatever anybody wants to do. I'm not going to shed no tears. It's not my place. If I have been, for whatever reason, your higher self, one of your aspects decided to bring you across my path, as long as you leave my space respectfully, we won't have any problem. When people leave my space disrespectfully, then there's an issue. but you can leave my space respectfully. You can say, I always say it. I say it all the time. You don't have to agree with me. You can think I'm crazy. It's fine. Just leave my space respectfully. That's all. But that, I don't even have those conversations. If you notice, I don't really address men. I don't, because I'm just telling y'all what I'm telling you, and you do with it what you want, and it's fine. Like, and I genuinely feel that way. I think we're ready for Corinna's testimony.
I don't know if it's quite a testimony, but there were a couple of things I wanted to say. One, did you hear, it fits into what you were saying about we don't need men to create. Did you hear about those condors in California that impregnated themselves? It's been in the
Started with the
news.
snakes. It started with the snakes like 5-6 years ago, and now it's moving into the mammals, bitch, because
Yeah, so I just think that's interesting because this stuff is like popping off. And then, so I took this class at work, and it was called brain-based time management. And because I've been not being able to focus and do whatever, and I was looking for some tips and tricks. And so part of what the class is her discussing the executive functions of the brain and how they work, and then a little bit about how, I think it's after 30 or 36, there's 8 of them. They're like, your ability to focus, your ability to manage time. And they said that after you're 30 or 36, all of them, you can't change them except for one. And the one that you can change is metacognition, which is self-awareness. And so I was thinking about this, and I was like, how could that not be like a divine gift for people to thinking and the way they think to stop like changing and growing, except for self-awareness, because I feel like self-awareness is the key to everything. And so when she tells me this, all of a sudden I'm just like on this like little like K-hole into learning about like metacognition and stuff like that. But I just thought it was really fascinating that exists and can change, and you have this potential to change and to be self-aware, probably, I assume, pretty close until the time you die, or probably in the moments you are dying. So I just thought that was amazing. And I was just like, how could that not be a sign of like the universe or God or whatever you want to call it?
that was the gift from the primordial mother. When you guys do research about when humans got the awareness of themselves, any form of self-awareness comes from the divine primordial mother. That's what it is. And it is the key to everything. Because with self-awareness, you can change all those other things. And you actually become more self-aware as you get older. And self-awareness changes your perception of reality. It changes everything. Which is why all of the spiritual traditions, to an extent, all of the people that do this kind of, light work and stuff like that, exactly, Corinna, it allows you to live in the present, because the present is all that there is. And if you can interact with your present, then you can change things. If you're always in the future or in the past, you can't change anything. You're pigeonholed. This is the key. This is how you break through your awareness of self. That's why I talk about your knowledge of self, because when you know self, you know everything that you need to know. This has been really good. It actually went a lot smoother than I thought that it was going to, because it was like, how do I do this? Points of research. In the Bible, Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the light. No man cometh to the Father but by me. There's conversations about who Satan is. There's conversations about demons. We have had our attention steered in one end of the polarity to create constant, never-ending feelings of guilt and shame about our participation in our shadow, which is our opposite polarity that all of us have. So when you're ready and when you feel comfortable, start looking at the opposite polarities of the concepts and the beings that you feel comfortable with. I'm just going to throw this in here before I close out. Jesus, the concept of Jesus is a thought form. Jesus is a thought form. They created this thought form to focus individual humans' energy into. It's like Siri. It's an accumulation and amalgamation of the thoughts, feelings, ideas, and concepts of people so that they could create a male version. It's Siri. Jesus is Siri. Does Jesus respond when you call? Yes. So does Siri. It's a thought form. There's other deities that are considered thought forms that are not original creations, but they are created by man. You've heard that said before, that we created these deities, not all, but there are some. And because so many people believe in them and so many people give energy to it, they have certain powers and abilities. Because we can collectively do that. Why do you think they get us to all focus on one thing at one time, at certain times of year? Certain events. They get us all to participate in things at one time. To focus. And that's all I have for y'all. Oh, and my battery is low. Email me, I'll check it now. I'm going to post this, you guys. I really, really appreciate your energy and your attention. I know this was a lot. Don't try to intellectualize it. Go with what resonates. Many of these subjects, after you raise your frequency, you'll come back to it. Don't try to jam it all in your head. When it's time, it'll make sense. Whatever resonated, whatever felt, that's what you were supposed to get. Okay? Does anybody else have anything else to say before I stop the recording? No.
I just want to say this kind of has something to do with this, but kind of not. But I'm not getting my emails like I should. I have to check them in order for them to come through. So I just want to say that so you know. Just bear with me.
Yes,
So,
no, it's been happening to me because the matrix is not happy with me.
okay.
So my phone's been weird. My emails have been held for hours in the
Mine are
outbox.
too. Yeah, mine are too.
There's a lot of, I'm handling some things to get some stuff cleared up, but this is happening. This is
Okay,
happening.
good. I just want you to know that because I'm not getting my stuff like I used to. I'm not.
The system is being eroded as we speak, and it's having a very violent reaction to the stuff that we're doing. It doesn't like it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that. I appreciate you all. Have a really, 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 really good night. Bye.